Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Protect the Boot podcast. And I'm with Grant Sastry, Jace Luzerne, and Grant Sastry at it again after another exciting week of high school football. And we're going to just talk about it. We'll have a short one today talking about week 10, just where our thoughts on a lot of games deciding district championships and PowerPoints as well. I know Hunter's really busy trying to figure out all of that right now, and we should get an announcement sometime tomorrow morning. I know the OHSA Network's going to put up a special and release all the brackets and everything. And later tomorrow evening, myself and Grant will just get like our initial reactions to like the brackets being out. And then after that, we'll have a special show on Monday, breaking down the brackets even more. So, Grant, great to have you on the show again. And we want to talk about some high school football and give our initial reactions to what was kind of a crazy weekend, especially last night.
Welcome back. This is my show. Well, it's our show, but usually I'm
Well,
the one doing the introduction. We changed it up a bit today.
yeah, I had
It's
to
a
record it on my end, so that's why it's
yeah, so
we had
different.
to
Yeah.
switch the
So
introductions.
he gets the introduction since he set it all up. But yeah, it's a huge weekend of high school football across the state. So much district title games, so much big time non district games as well. I mean, you can kind of tell that it's playoff season, and that officially starts tomorrow with when they're announcing all the brackets and everything. I think they were going to announce the brackets. I think it was at like 10, 11, maybe it was noon. I forgot what it was. But, this is probably about to be the biggest month of high school football, you know, of the season, obviously because it's playoffs. But week to 9 and week 10 kind of gave you a little bit of an appetizer. Now we get into the entree, which I mean it's going to be really really good. I'm really excited for week the first round. There should be some good matchups, but we'll see once the brackets come out. We can start making our predictions, yada yada yada. Tomorrow we will have a reaction show, just a short one, just to get our initial thoughts of it. Maybe look at the seeds, who was seeding where, what maybe it shocked us, maybe it didn't, yada yada yada. But on Monday we're gonna have a huge show. We're gonna bring in a special guest. We will announce that tomorrow. So let's get into what happened. Let's get into the recap of this past weekend. So let's go through a few games, a few notable games. Good to set up the score, and then we're gonna kind of give our initial thoughts about a lot of the games, not one by one, but just everything as a whole. So first we go with Sam Houston upset Southside, 32-27. That was a shocker among a lot of people because Southside, has been a pretty consistent program. They've been one of the harder teams as of late, and then Sam Houston came out of nowhere. I think they finished the season 8-2, which is a remarkable job by Coach Chad Davis over there at Sam Houston. Haynesville beat Homer 23-0. We both picked Homer to win that
Oh, we
game.
were both
Ended up
wrong.
being wrong, really
Dead wrong with
wrong.
that one.
Yeah, and then UI defeated Parkview Baptist 55-14. Holy Cross killed East St. John
Yeah.
56-19. That was a statement win by the Tigers of Holy Cross. Opelousas Catholic beat St. Edmund 56-12. Notre Dame defeated Walsh 44-0. This game and the previous game I just mentioned were both district title games. So
Yeah.
congrats to them on their first for their district titles. And Haynesville and Homer was also district title as well.
Yeah, it
So
was.
Haynesville won their district outright. Abbeville defeated Kaplan to win district. Congrats to
Yep.
Abbeville High School.
Yeah.
Iota defeated Church Point. If Church Point won, they would have won the outright district
Yeah.
title. But since Church Point lost, it's a three-way tie for first place.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy district over there. Leesville defeated a very tough Rain team, 53-32. And then Plaquemine defeated West Louisiana 13-8.
And I believe there's
So I think
also a
that's
three way
three-way tie.
tie. Yeah, for
Mhm.
that one as well. Yep.
Yeah, it's a lot of crazy football around the state, guys. So, Jace, what are your initial thoughts about the scores you just mentioned? Which games kind of shocked you, and which games didn't?
Yeah, I mean, it shocked me about Haynesville and Homer. I mean, I'm not really shocked by the result. I'm just shocked how the Haynesville was just able to dominate Homer like they did. I know we mentioned on a previous show about how Haynesville just was able to, like, Homer has some really good athletes, and
Yeah,
they got really. I mean, they went to the state championship a year ago. Year before that, they won the state championship. So, Coach Casey's done an excellent job building that program up. But that was just a reminder for Coach David Franklin and really this football team for Haynesville. Say, hey, we're still here. We're still Haynesville. So that was a big win for them. Just to remind people that hey, the Golden Tornadoes are still here and they're still going to be a factor in the playoffs. So that certainly was one that stood out to me. And yeah, that was a big win, like you mentioned, Sam Houston as well, going in and being a really good Southside football team. And I was really impressed with Southside, even though they lost to Cancro. They really showed me a lot and really impressed me a lot when we both covered that game. So Sam Houston, unfortunately, I brought some bad luck to him when I when I covered him against 8th KDM, but really a huge kudos to really Coach Davis and what he's done this year for this football team. And this has been a team that's been trying to overcome that hurdle of having a really good season in district, and they've had a pretty good season this year. Only two losses, as you mentioned. So that was a big win for Sam Houston for him to get some confidence and
yeah,
towards the playoffs. And Notre Dame is another team that you mentioned because we talk about which is going to be a loaded Division 3 select playoff bracket. And when we mentioned the names, you mentioned Calvary Baptist, Dunham, U High, Newman, St. Charles Catholic, but like a team that nobody's really talking about is Notre Dame, and that's a team that Willie Cook, you can never count out Coach Willie Cook and the Pios out, and then winning district championship. Not a lot of people were really talking about that. So Welsh has had a really good season this year in order to defeat Welsh. I was like Haynesville, Notre Dame, like some of those teams that we've heard about from the past for a lot. They're just remind people that they're just flying on the radar this year, and it's just like they remind people like, hey, there's a reason why we've done this so for a lot and consistently in the past. So some of those teams, the program names, are rising to the occasion. Really, of those scores, that really stood out to me.
yeah. Sam Houston, the Southside game. That game kind of, I wouldn't say shocked me in the sense that because I mean both teams are. I mean obviously Sam Houston is really good, and they've shown that all year long. Besides that Acadiana game, I mean all year long they've been one of the tougher teams in Southwest Louisiana, and
Hmm.
they really should have beat Carencro last weekend. So that's a very well not last weekend but 2 weekends ago. So that's a very tough Sam Houston team, but I think what is shocking about that result is that the way the Southside ended the year, a lot of
Hmm.
people they had a lot of hype going the year. They're actually one of my sleeper teams to make it
Right.
to the dome this year, but they had disappointing end of the season with the loss to Sam Houston a couple weeks ago. They lost against Acadiana.
Hmm.
They had a tough loss early against Karen Crow. But the thing is, they still the playoffs. They can make a run. I mean, it doesn't matter how good or how bad a team is. We've seen all kinds of teams make those type of just get hot and make those runs like we
Hmm.
did last year with Brother Martin, where they finished season 500 and then they just went on this magical run to their first state title game since 1989. It's been that
Hmm.
long for Brother Martin, especially with all the the history and all the talent that's come out of Brother Martin.
Right.
It was the first state title appearance since 1989. So anything is possible. So they could get hot in the playoffs and make a run. So don't cut out the Sharks of Southside yet. There's a very well coached team, and then even if they even then maybe flame out in the playoffs, they still are returning a good bit of talent next year. So keep watching out for the Southside Sharks. They're going to be a program to watch in the near future. But yeah, let's move on
Sure.
to our main. Some of the top games across the state. So first starting off with John Curtis and Carr. This was the result wasn't shocking, like in terms of like it could have been Carr could have won,
Yeah.
or could have won, and you wouldn't have been shocked. What
Right.
was shocking was how it happened.
Yeah.
Curtis defeated Carr 41-7. Dagan Bruno 7 for 9, 130 yards and 3 touchdowns. Two of those touchdowns were to Tyler Mitchell. He had three
Hmm.
catches for 99 yards and two tutties. A
Right.
huge day for Curtis's offense. But then on defense, they held Carr scoreless up until the final 5 minutes of the game. I mean,
Hmm.
just an impressive job for the offense and the defense all around to make this result happen. And more importantly, the coaching staff of Curtis did a fantastic job game planning for this game. But
Yeah.
the most important thing about this whole game was that JT Curtis was able to earn his 622nd
Second.
victory. Mhm. Even
Yeah.
though with the whole LSA not counting it because they took some games off or stuff that happened a little over 10 years ago with Willie Allen and
Hmm.
it's a whole mess.
Right.
But it doesn't matter to me and to a lot of people around the state. He is the winningest head coach
Yeah.
in high school football history because all that stuff happened on the field.
Yeah. You can't
So
take that away.
exactly. So congrats, Coach JT. I've met JT a few times through my dad and also interning with WGNO. He's a great guy, and there's
Absolutely.
nobody more deserving than him. So, Jace, what do you have to say about this game? How big of this was a win for Curtis going to the playoffs, and how does Carr rebound from a humiliating loss? It was humiliating for them
Yeah.
because I mean, that's probably the first time I've ever seen Carr get not only get outplayed, but even outcoached. And that's
Yeah.
crazy to think about because Carr's coaching staff is one of the best in the state, if not the nation.
Yeah, I mean, as far as losses are concerned, like the only thing I can remember just like covering high school football for like 5, 6 years is probably a couple years ago when they went to Memorial Stadium and played Catholic. And Catholic just kind of ran away with it in the second half, but it was a close first half. I mean, as far as like from start to finish, I'd never seen in a car get outclassed like that, and just get blown
Mm.
out like that. But it just also happens. It's another lesson, right? Never go against JT Curtis, right? And of course,
Yeah,
there was history
we
when we
both
went.
called that.
We both went against them, so that just shows you, of course, in JT like fashion, proving us wrong and just having a dominant win in all three phases. Because you know what JT wants, he prides himself in winning in all three phases, and that's what they did against Edna Carr. And what a opponent to do it against, as dominant as Endikar has been, to have a win like
Mm.
that, to make for that to be 622, the 622nd win, in the opponent they went against and the fashion they did it. It was just a perfect night for John Curtis. I know some people, we're not going to obviously mention a lot of the names like the rain on the parade, uh, but everybody pretty much recognizes what JT has done over his career. And like I said, I mean, I got a chance to like yourself. I got a chance to talk to JT a couple of times, and I got the pleasure of actually having some conversations with him. If you talk to him, like you wouldn't think he's won these many championships and in these many games. He's as humble as it gets,
Yeah.
and he doesn't really. And I can guarantee you, he's probably glad this is all over, so that he can actually move ahead and focus on the playoffs. Knowing JT, he's not going to, no matter who said, oh, he's got 622, oh, he doesn't have six, it doesn't matter. Like for him, it's like it's just another game, and it's just another game for his kids, and he's going to make sure that all the credit goes to the coaching staff, and the kids, and that's just what kind of man he really is, and really happy for him to get that record. But it just shows you that man, what a career he's had, and the scary thing is, I mean, he can probably try to win 1,000 games because at this rate, because it looks like he can coach for another 10 years.
Yeah, and this is a huge victory not only for the program and the school, but his family as well. I mean, half his family is actually on the coaching staff,
Oh
so
yeah, yeah.
that's a pretty cool thing to see the family there and celebrating his achievement. But you got to think. But I have to say this: he does not. He can't. Obviously, he loves that he broke the record.
Oh
But
yeah,
let's be
yeah.
honest, he would
Hmm.
take any of the state championships over the 622nd.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah,
So
without a doubt.
I mean, that's who he is. He just wants to win, and
Yeah.
he's a winner, and he's one of the most humble people I have met. Not only just being involved in the football business forever, because my dad was a coach, a longtime
Hmm.
college coach, and everyone in the New Orleans area seems to know my dad. And so, but then also just covering high school football, covering college sports as well. I've never met a more humble man than
Yeah,
JT Curtis, especially for how long he's done, for what he's done, and for
yeah,
how long he's done. So I mean,
right.
that's then again, that's also a huge victory for Curtis because originally I think they were 10th in the power ratings.
They're
Uh,
gonna get a big jump.
yeah, they got a huge jump. Now they're sixth.
Yeah.
So they probably boarded some of those tougher matchups early on. So they don't really have to play their toughest matchup to the quarterfinals, which is absolutely perfect for them. And that's going to be a nightmare for whoever they have to play.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes.
And really,
Yeah.
last year, if you remember in the playoff bracket last year, everybody was thinking, okay, that semifinal game between Catholic and then the quarterfinal game between Catholic and the Car. Oh, whoever's going to win that game was going to go win the championship. And I think John Kurz and JT are like, that's exactly what we want to hear because nobody's talking about us. Everybody's proving, everybody thinks that we're not going to be able to beat them. Well, everybody underestimated him, and that is when John Kurz is at its most dangerous, and that's how they're able
Mm-hmm.
to really go on that state championship run last year, and and they've been used to having them. Okay, what are they going to do? They're state champions the year before. Can they make it go another run? Well, they've done this 27, 27 other times, so they're pretty used to playing with this mantra of having that a grill on their back as far as going for a state championship.
Mm-hmm. And moving on to our next game, another huge game in South Louisiana. We had Catholic and Zachary going to overtime.
Yeah,
Catholic won 35-28. A
yep,
lot of huge plays, a lot of talent on the field, just like the last game.
yeah,
So just talent all over. We're very fortunate to be in such a great time in Louisiana football, high school football, where we're seeing
absolutely.
so much talent, and especially these next three classes, including the 2026 class, where Louisiana's supposed to have three of the top 10 recruits in the country. So going into this game, Daniel Beal was 11 for 20, two touchdowns, and 211 yards of passing. Barry Remo, he had a slow start the first half, and
Hmm.
so did Daniel Beal. Daniel Beal also had a
Yeah.
slow start the first
Oh
half,
yeah.
but especially Barry Remo. And then Barry Remo exploded in the second half. He had that 44-yard rushing, the 44-yard rush to set up Daniel Beal's miraculous rushing
Harry
touchdown.
Houdini impersonation right there.
And a lot of big plays. Sure, Green with the 80-yard touchdown catch. I mean, there's a lot of big time players and a lot of big time plays made in that game. But I think the most important play in that game was the blocked punt right before
100%,
the
I agree.
halftime. Because so Sam Norm, forgot who it was. It was I wrote it down. I know Sam Norman had the block punt. Do you remember who? Oh no, Sam Norman picked up the score, but
Yeah, Sam Norman blocked the punt.
Sam
And
Norman blocked the punt.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, he blocked the punt and returning it was, I'm gonna get that to you for a second. Harrison Kidder. And Kidder had the
Harrison.
he
Yeah,
ran it back. And the thing about that, Grant, was that it came with about 11 seconds left before halftime. So
yeah,
like it was one of those things where Zachary, you looked at the first half and it was 7-0. Like, I mean, it wasn't like if that didn't happen, it's like okay, it's still gonna be it's a close ball game. But I feel like Zachary really controlled really that first half. And for Catholic, they didn't really have that really big play to spark them. And certainly that block punt was really the spark they needed, especially heading to the locker room, saying, "Hey, we just tied this up. We got outplayed in the first half, but we top. This is a tied game. It's like 0-0." So,
mm,
and I think that woke up really their offense in the second half, and really not
mm,
only Catholic's offense, but really Zachary. I mean, it was really a shootout, a back and forth affair between both teams, and really the quarterbacks like Daniel Bill. I thought as far as halves are concerned, and just over his, he's been playing since like beginning of time, right?
yeah.
But I feel
No
like
news.
he's been playing forever. I mean, ever since his freshman year. But
Mm,
I feel like that was one of his, as far as like talking, going back and looking at his career, I thought that was one of the top two or three moments of his whole career was that second half and how efficient he played. And we don't necessarily see him as a runner. but he scored 2 touchdowns, and
Yeah.
he just found a way to win, and that's what you
Mhm.
want in your senior quarterback. And then Zachary threw their punches too. Cameron Thomas, not a lot of people are talking about him, but he's kind of like their Barry Remo. I mean, he's
Yeah.
like they really fuel off of what he does in the ground game. And they run behind that big offensive line. They finally got Trey Green going in the second half. Obviously,
Mhm.
the big play that got them really their offense really going. But Catholic just responded, and it was just a back and forth battle. It was pretty much everything that you really expected to see between Catholic and Zachary because every time these two teams play, it's a classic battle.
Right. And Daniel Beal also had a clutch game last year too. I mean, he was a huge reason why they won last year as well. They clinched the
Hmm.
district title between two undefeated teams last season. This season, Daniel Beal came up clutch again in the second half, 2 passing touchdowns and 2 rushing touchdowns. And the second rushing touchdown was the game winner.
Yeah,
And
in
then the
overtime.
final
Yep.
play, Jacob Bradford, the older Bradford brother,
Yeah.
obviously Blanton's not. I'm not sure how long he's going to be out. Unfortunately, he's one. He is one of the. Remember, I told you guys earlier. We had 3 of the top 10 players in the class of
Oh, he's one of
2026.
them. Yep.
He's one of them.
Yeah, he's one of
So
them.
so his older brother Jacob had to probably the play. Well, probably the second
Well,
biggest play of the game was the interception on Trey Green, which ultimately won the game for Catholic. But
and
yeah,
how big
huge.
it was, Grant. I mean, you told me like I didn't realize who was covering him, like covering Trey Green when he had that long touch. It was
Yeah,
Jacob. It was Jacob Bradford. So
yeah,
talk about like some revenge from Jacob Bradford and then do it
yeah.
in that fashion. So yeah, that was a heck of a way to end the football game like that.
Yeah, and like that's a huge victory for Catholic going the year. Obviously, they had a very disappointing start of the season. I mean, yes, they started the season in the 2-2, but technically they're 1-3 because of the Warren Easton disqualification, stuff like that. So they
Hmm.
really started off the season 1-3 for on the field play,
Hmm.
and then they've won 6 straight games since then. The finish
Yeah.
is 7-3, and I really think that's going to carry over to the playoffs, which is much needed for this Catholic team, and then also for Hudson because he's a very young coach. I think he's only 31, 30.
Yeah,
I
he's
mean, he's
young.
much older than us. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, he
not that much
much
older than us.
older than us. Like, he looks like he's like one like the like the receivers coach or something like that. Like the guy
It seems
just
like
joined
these
this.
coaches are getting younger and younger. Like Coach
Yeah,
Hunter Landry too at LCA, like Coach Tyler Lewis, like all these guys are pretty much around our age as head coaches. It's pretty
yeah.
crazy.
What are we doing with our lives,
I
Chase?
don't
What the
know. I
hell?
mean, like, yeah, I mean, we're coaches' sons. I feel like we could be coaching, but trust
Yeah,
me, you don't want that to happen. I'm gonna let them handle that. Trust me.
yeah. Going to our next game. We had LCA versus St. Thomas More.
Oh yeah,
It's what we expected. SCM defeated LCA 44-40. Oh, this was another game we called her on. Oh, by the way, I forgot to
yeah.
mention the last game, Catholic and Zachary. He picked his alma mater to lose. I picked
Okay.
them to win.
So I've been explaining it. So at
No
the end of
excuses.
it,
No
no,
excuses.
no. I'm putting myself. I'm saying this and saying my case. I was going to make sure how many people actually believe I was going to pick Zachary, and as a Catholic high guy, right? So obviously at the end I picked Catholic, and and you go back and watch the podcast. I said Zachary
Right.
first, but I was
Chase,
just
Chase,
getting a
Chase,
jump
let's move on
scare.
to LCA
I
and
said
SCM, man.
Catholic. I
Oh
said
my god, let's move
Catholic.
on to LCA and SCM. I don't hear the excuse. God. All right.
Let's move on, Grant.
Let's
Save
see.
my space.
I was getting ready. Sorry, guys. Just had to mention that. I like to mess with James all the time. But yeah, STM defeated LCA 44-40.
Mhm.
Another classic game
Yeah.
between these two teams. There was some controversy on STM's final drive. A lot of LCA people thought that they should have got some calls, kind of went against them. It's
A lot
typical
of
of this
penalties.
rivalry. I wasn't. Now, obviously, we weren't there.
Yeah.
I didn't actually end up watching the game, but that's what I've heard. That's what we both heard.
Hmm.
So it doesn't matter because these two teams are going to probably play in the dome again. So, Jace,
Yeah.
what's your overall thoughts about this game? And what do you see from these two teams going to playoff time? Even though they're not the shoe in to make the state championship
Hmm.
game for the second year in a row.
Yeah.
obviously because all the teams in that division have gotten tougher.
Yeah.
One of which we'll mention later in the show. Um, but you know, what do you see these two teams doing in the playoffs as
Yeah, I
well?
think I agree with you. Like, I think certainly, and I'm gonna wait till the brackets pull out too. I'm not sure. There could be a crazy scenario where both those two teams are on the same side, but there's a good chance they're pretty much on opposite sides. But I don't think is as much, like you said, as much of a shoe in to see that rematch in the state championship game as it was last year. Just because we have some pretty good football teams, like Edie White was one of them. I know you talk about John F. Kennedy. He's a really like what Coach Del Page is doing over there, and the talent they got over there. There's some really good football teams in that bracket to keep an eye out for. And but I still like, as far as a favorite, those two teams eventually meeting each other at some point in the playoffs. I caught like the tail end of that game, and I know in the broadcast they said LCA suffered like 16 penalties, I believe it was. So there were a
Mm,
lot of penalties in that game, but
yeah,
it shows you how talented that team is to still be in that game with 16 penalties being called against you.
yeah,
A big play. It was a crazy, like it was in the state championship game. Crazy couple minutes. I know St. Thomas More is actually driving about a minute 30 seconds. They're about to get up by 2 touchdowns and seal this thing. And there was a high snap over Altman, and LCA returns it like 97 yards for a touchdown. They take the lead 40-37 instead of St. Thomas More getting a two-score lead. But you do it so quick on the fumble return for a touchdown. You give St. Thomas More back a minute 20 seconds, and Sam Altman just goes right down the field, and they score a touchdown. He threw a throw in the back of the end zone, which was I mean, a heck of a throw. He was getting hit and threw it the only place where a receiver can get it, and it was in pretty good coverage. So it shows Sam
right.
Altman showed me a whole lot on that drive. And there were about 25 seconds left, and the announcers calling the Yearview game were saying this game's not over yet. So like St. Thomas more celebrating, but this game's not over yet. And Jawan Johnson, in about 2 or 3 plays, they're already in like the 40-yard line, like in the opponent territory. And Jawan
Right.
Johnson threw a dime in the back of the end zone on the final play of the game, and it could have been caught for the touchdown, the game winner. But it just fell short. But it was a heck of a throw by Jawan Johnson to get that in that situation, because there were, I think, 3 Cougar defenders in that area. And somehow the LCA receiver still had a chance to come down with that. So it's going to be, I really hope we get that matchup again, because
Mm.
it's very entertaining when both those two teams play against each other. Just like I mentioned with Catholic and Zachary, it just get your popcorn ready and just sit down and watch some really good offensive football when both those two teams play against each
Right, exactly. You know, that's what we expected. We expected to bring the popcorn and the Coke, just like for a movie.
other.
You
Oh
know,
yeah.
and that's what this game is. It's basically a movie, but you know, we both agree on this. That Division Two select just got a little bit tougher. Um, that I mean, it's very very tough. But moving on to our next game, which is actually we're going to move on to Division Three select, which was another big time
Oh.
game
Oh
between
yeah.
two of the top teams in Division Three select, which is St. Charles Catholic and Newman. These guys have been long time district rivals, you know, forever. It's always
Hmm.
one of the most anticipated games in the New Orleans area. Uh, you know, we both picked Newman to win this game. We really liked what they were seeing. We saw a little bit different Newman team. They seem to
Yeah.
be a lot more physical, and they're still bringing all those athletes back from the Arch Manning era. But unfortunately, St. Charles, unfortunately for the Greenies, St. Charles Catholic just showed again why they still own you,
Hmm.
because that's what they're saying.
Right.
And you know they ended up beating you 20-0. I'm not saying they own you. I'm saying that they saying they own you,
Hmm.
because this
Right.
is I think this is the fourth time in the last 5 years where St. Charles Catholic is beating Newman. You know, with
Yeah.
all the talent that Newman's has had as of late.
Hmm.
Um, Jeremiah Wells is huge in this game, 70 carries for 118 yards and 2 tutties. The St. Charles Catholic defense held Newman to, I think, under 200 yards, if I'm correct. And then
Yep.
also Shane Zimmerman for St. Charles Catholic. He had a huge game, 9 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. That's some
Hmm.
player of the week stuff, Jace.
Oh
So
yeah.
what do you have to say about the St. Charles Catholic defense, and how does Newman rebound from a very, very tough loss to one of his longtime rivals?
That's what I'm most intrigued about with Newman, like how they rebound from that because they put that game on their schedule. I mean, I mean, they circle that game on their schedule as far as like a must win game for them. And I felt like we were talking about last week. I thought physically their style of play, and maybe not just having the big spotlight on you because of Arch Manning in the last couple of years. I felt like that Newman had a really good chance of going toe to toe with St. Charles Catholic. But St. Charles Catholic, I mean, it's just kind of what we're talking about with John Curtis and some of these other programs. Like you just can't go against them. All they do is win, and it's not going to be the prettiest. Like when you see St. Charles Catholic play, it's not going to be pretty, but it's going to be gritty. It's going to be gritty when they win, and they play really good defense. And another thing about it is they're not going to beat themselves. Like you're just going to have to beat them because they're
Yeah.
not going to make mistakes. They're not going to turn the ball over. They're not going to commit any uh, unnecessary penalties. Like you're just going to have to go there and just outplay them and beat them. And with that style of play, that's why they win. Because at this time of year, when it gets cold, the weather's not great, you have to run the football, play good defense. That's what they want to do, and they showed it and why they're in playoff form already.
Mm-hmm. And then that's the thing about St. Charles. They kind of look at Newman as his preppy boys, and they want to kill him every game, every
Hmm.
time they play. I mean, it's just one of those. It's just kind of the different culture aspects between the two teams. I
Hmm.
mean, Newman's more uptown New Orleans type of people, and then St. Charles Catholics, right there in Laplace. If you've ever been there, it's a pretty like country place, very gritty. They're gonna run the ball down your throat. They're not gonna do anything finesse. They're going to try to out physical you, and they're going to win whatever they have to do to win. They're going to do, and
Hmm.
that's what St. Charles Catholic's always been. Not only under Wayne Stein, but also under Coach
Frank
Monica
Bonica.
as well
Yep.
when he was over there and running the show. But yeah, but moving on to our next big time game between two Northern Louisiana powerhouses, which are Ruston and West Monroe. Last year, Ruston was able to break a 33 game losing streak against the Rebels, which is
Yeah.
pretty incredible considering what we know about Ruston. Ruston's always
Right.
been one of the more talked about high school programs around the state. A lot of history, a lot of tradition, a lot of great players come out of the school. So the fact that they were able to break a 33 game losing streak is like, wait, what? Because it's just
Yeah.
that, like, it's
You would.
one of those things, like, you'd be shocked. It's one of those things where, like, it's like you hear it, you're like, no way, that can't be
Yeah.
true.
There's no
Just
way that's right.
like, are you on? Are you high? Like
Right.
it's like one of those things because there's no you don't believe it, but it's true. And then guess what? This game was the first time they won at West Monroe since 1983.
Yeah.
Russell defeated West Monroe 35-28. I think this is what we're kind of expecting, a very close game between two of the best teams in the state. Um, and Jordan Hayes, the running back for Ruston, rushed for 243 yards and
Yeah.
2 touchdowns. So, is this what you is Jace? What do you think about this game? Is Ruston the best team in 5A? Period. And how do you see West Monroe bouncing back from such a tough loss with playoffs starting this upcoming week?
I would say, especially because before it doesn't look great now. Obviously, I had in the car heading to this week as my top team, and certainly that took a big hit against John Curtis. So,
Mm-hmm.
with that being said, Ruston is the best team in Class 5A. Whether you're public or private, I'm gonna go with the Ruston Bearcats. And you talk about the running back Jordan Hayes. I'm surprised nobody talks about him as much as they do. I mean, he's been playing for a while for the Ruston Bearcats. So when you start, ever since, I mean, he was playing a lot of his freshman year. So when you he's still got another year. He's only a junior, so it's pretty incredible seeing him run the football. And they can throw the football too when they need to, and I think that's going to give him an extra dimension. Maybe they didn't really have a year before, or 2 years before for sure. And you pair that with that defense they have. That's I would put that defense as good as anybody out there. So big win. I know we're running out of time. We got about 4 minutes left, so I know we're
Yep.
going to try to get as much stuff as we can. But I'm really impressed with Ruston, and right now they're my best 5A team.
Yep. And two more games real quick, Jace. ED White defeated St. James 27-19. ED White moves up to number 2 and the Division II select rankings due to LCA losing.
Yeah,
Carter Douglas had 3 touchdowns. Jake Sternfels 4 for 9, 89 yards, 100 rushing yards. And then also another game, another 3A matchup. Sterlington and Wassman. Sterlington defeated Wassman 38-15. This is the most points that Wassman has allowed all season long, and it is the 5th district title since 2017 for the Panthers. So, what are your overall thoughts about those two games, Jace?
yeah. I mean, Ed White just real quickly. Jake Sternfels is a great high school quarterback. I mean, he's been starting for him a couple years, and he just wins. He's just a winner, and he's just what you want and the guy running that offense. And it's good to see Carr have that game that he had, 3 touchdowns. I know that Nick interviewed him after the game. Was covering that game for us for Gridiron, and then Paxton LaFont. I mean, this guy's a stud. I mean, we're talking about the wide receiver position. He's as good as it comes. Maybe he doesn't get a lot of recognition just because he may not have the stats and he'll throw the football a lot. I mean, they're throwing the ball a little bit more than they did in the past, but he is a stud. If you go see Paxton LaFont play, I mean, he's one of the best out there in the state. The defense is well coached. They force turnovers. So yeah, Edie White. We're talking about Division II. In that select, LCA and then St. Thomas More, that's a team to watch out for. That can spoil the
Mm,
party. And then you talk about the other game as well, Sterlington. It just shows you they've been in these type of games, these district games, and that it didn't really surprise me with Sterlington getting that win just because they're used to being in these type of games, and Coach Lee Dowie and those guys, they just run things like a professional football team, and they're just so well coached, so professional. So they just took care of business and went to the playoffs after that.
yeah, Jace, huge weekend for high school football all across the state of Louisiana. Uh, Tomorrow we will have our initial reaction show to all the brackets that are being released tomorrow. Going to be a very exciting day tomorrow. Obviously, today just huge LSU Bama game. I'm wearing my LSU fleece right now.
Yeah,
James is
where's the LSU Tiger shirt?
yeah,
There we go.
and then yep. So we're really excited about tonight's game as well. I'm pretty sure all y'all are very excited tonight's. As we hope the Tigers defeat the Alabama Crimson Tide. But then also on Monday, like we said earlier in the show, we will bring in a special guest. We'll announce that tomorrow as well, and we'll have a much longer look view of what's to happen in the playoffs, who we think the shockers may be to make a run, who we think will win the state championships. It's going to be a huge show for us and also our guest. And me and Jason are really excited. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. Be a little bit shorter show tomorrow, unlike this show. It's pretty long. It wasn't long, but it's a lot shorter than all the other shows. So, me, Grant Sastre of Gridiron Football, along here with Jace Lejeune, my co-host. We'll see you guys on Monday. Oh, not Monday, tomorrow, Sunday, tomorrow. And just remember, protect the boot.
Take the boot, guys. See y'all tomorrow.